Okay. So I do want to be really clear about what the goal of today's discussion is about, and then to talk about what this is not, because we are going to have additional webinars. What we try to do is chunk things out. The CoC process is a very complex one, and the CoC NOFA itself is very dense. We just had a webinar about half an hour ago that detailed important NOFA summary information that's kind of system-wide. This will not. So the goal of today is just to provide basic information for new CoC project applicants. This is a HUD requirement for all continuums. HUD requires that you reach out and make available information for entities that are not CoC funded, as well as are CoC funded, to get information about the process. So this meets the requirement for every continuum. That's why we have all 9 continuums on this call. This webinar will not review real important dates for NOFA stuff. I will give a brief just overview. It will review the really important dates, but it's not going into the detailed dates that Jen has on her timeline. I should clarify. That important information will be discussed during the eSNAPS trainings.
Amy Wiesenfelder.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
Which will be discussed during the eSNAPS trainings, which are August 3rd and August 9th. So your real detailed CoC focused timelines will be discussed then, not today. We will review eligible project types, but what we will not do is get into the nitty-gritty of them. There are some very new and very complex new eligible project types that we are only going to give an overview today, but at a later date, one of those dates being the eSNAPS training, we will give more detailed information. We will discuss the 2017 policy priorities, but we're only going to hit on them. We're not going into detail. And we will talk about available technical assistance that CARE staff provides. Again, we will not provide a detailed review or overview of the continuum of care or the NOFA. We're not going to give detailed eSNAPS technical submission directions today, and we're not going to be providing project-specific technical assistance or RFP review during this webinar. Not that we won't do it, we're just not going to do it today. Bless you.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That was Nancy Chiarella, full disclosure. Nice, Nancy. Full disclosure.
All right, let's get to the important NOFA dates that we're going to go through very quickly. So the NOFA was released July 14th. The application was made available on the 19th. Hot off the press, detailed instructions are now out for the majority of applications. So even though HUD said they were going to be available on the 28th, on the 31st, they are now available today. All CoC applications, meaning your full CoC, I'm not talking projects, must be submitted by September 28th. So submitting the CoC application is the requirement of the collaborative applicant, which is CARES. The requirement of project applicants is to submit the project application, which is just a portion of the full. Those dates Jen has within her detailed timeline, and we'll go over during the eSNAPS training. Just quickly, for those of you who are not heavy into CoC or HUD world, I did just want to talk about the 2017 policy priorities that the NOFA set, because it's important to understand them if you're going to be applying for funding. So the 4 policy priorities that HUD is focusing on: ending homelessness for all persons, creating a systematic response to homelessness, strategically allocating and using resources, and using a housing first approach. So it's important to understand if you are not currently CoC funded, there's a couple of things that go throughout the whole process and all of these policy priorities, but a main one is the requirement to participate within coordinated entry. And we could talk about coordinated entry during the question session, but it is important to know what coordinated entry is if you're not funded, and just to have on your little agenda or task list to talk to your coordinated entry lead so that you understand the responsibilities of participating agencies, because you are required to participate. Okay, now the fun stuff. This is what everyone wants to know. So there is available funding for new projects. Under the 2017 NOFA, there's $2 billion that's available. Within that $2 billion, HUD is saying that they are going to fund bonus projects. Bonus projects are projects that are not renewals, so are not currently happening, but they have to meet a certain criteria that HUD sets every year, and we're going to talk about that criteria in a minute. Permanent housing bonus is 6% of the current CoC's award, and I have those numbers in a minute. HUD is also allowing new projects to be created through reallocation. So for those of you who are not HUDies, reallocation means that it's dollars that are already within your current CoC's allocation that are going to be taken from a current operating project and then reformatted into a new project to meet the community's needs. So that ability to reallocate has to be discussed on each CoC's local level, and not every CoC is going to have dollars that can be used for reallocation. This is important to note because HUD has two different eligibility criterias for your permanent bonus and your reallocation, and we're going to go through that. Before I move on, are there any questions? Great. So what's in front of you here is funding for all 9 of the continuums. And the ARD is your annual renewal demand, which is the CoC's current allocation. And then the bonus is the available amount for the permanent housing bonus. So an example, in Elmira, their annual renewal demand is 1.4, and the bonus project could be up to $88,972. I do want to note, for those of you who are HUDies and who went to HUD's website to download some of this information, they did have to update it. So this is the latest and greatest of the information. Okay, so Jen, I am going to work with you going back and forth to talk about the permanent housing bonus projects. So it is pretty straightforward, except for this year, HUD threw in 2 curveballs. One that we kind of knew was coming, and one that we had no idea until the NOFA came out. So eligible permanent housing bonus projects can be dedicated plus projects, which you can find more information on page 18 of the NOFA. But the caveat there is not only are they dedicated plus, but all of the beds have to be dedicated to chronically homeless individuals and or families. So this dedicated plus is brand new, and it's a little confusing. So we do have a link at the end of this presentation, and we are going to post this online for everyone for you to click into to kind of understand what dedicated plus means. You could also create a rapid rehousing project, but there are some caveats to that. So the bullets here, I think, are pretty important to read through and understand before you just go straight for your rapid rehousing. Because when you apply, you have to note within your project description that these are the folks that you're taking. So it is important. HUD puts it in there, but they expect to see it in your project application. So that, because they want to make sure you're real clear that this is the criteria for your bonus project. Another curveball that HUD threw to us is the joint TH and PHRR component projects, which can be found on page 20. This has I believe it's a 4-page white paper that HUD put out. What they want communities to ensure is that they're understanding what this new component is, because it is not for every community. So again, at today's meeting, today's webinar, we're not going to detail the dedicated plus or the joint TH, PHRRH, because that could be a webinar in itself. But we do want to let you know this, and then we're giving you the information to do some reading. So eligible reallocation projects. So again, not every community is going to be able to apply for all of these projects because you may not have reallocated dollars to do so. But if there are dollars that are able to be reallocated, you could do a dedicated plus program, permanent supportive housing. You could do the rapid rehousing projects, again, with these criteria. You could do the joint TH, PHRRH. You could do an HMIS project. And I know for a lot of communities who don't have coordinated entry funding yet, you can fund coordinated entry through reallocation. Go ahead, Jen.
And if I can just add to the reallocated projects, if you have a project that fits into one of these criteria, you're also allowed to apply for an expansion of a current project as well.
For the bonus also, you can do that. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's go back to that money page. Oop, I went the wrong way. Okay, so an example is Franklin, Essex. So their bonus is $20,940. And for some organizations, they may feel that that's not enough money to start up a new project. However, it could add 2 or 3 beds to an existing project. In the past, HUD made you create a whole new project that looked like you only had 1 bed or 2 beds, and which meant you had 2 applications that you had to do. 2 APRs you had to do. However, now, in the new project application, there is a whole section that asks if you are expanding a current CoC funded project. It asks for the grant number, and if it is awarded, it literally goes right into your older grant. So now you just have an extension to your existing grant and not all that extra paperwork and extra administrative work that you had to do in the past. Are there any questions about that? Okay. So again, we are not going to go into detail about the dedicated plus projects, but we wanted to give folks just a second to look at HUD's regs on it and what they're saying. So these are just some basic bullet points, but we really highly encourage you to read through the document because this is new, and we want to make sure that both new project applicants as well as renewing projects, you can decide to change to a dedicated plus project. We want to make sure you're understanding what you are telling HUD you're going to do with your program. Go ahead, Mary.
Is that last bullet supposed to say, but has not done so on 4 separate occasions? It has not?
Has not, correct. So this is not dedicated chronic. I want to be clear, and that's a very good point that you made. When you have a dedicated plus project, what you're technically doing is, so they talked about this at the National Alliance, where there are kind of folks who are like outliers, like really close to the most vulnerable, they're like right there. So these beds are almost like a step, a little bit of a different step from chronic. So if you have a dedicated plus project, you also have to dedicate chronic beds to it, because these bullets don't make someone chronic
Okay,
by itself.
okay,
Obviously, the experience in chronic homelessness does,
okay.
but it does not dedicate it. What you're saying here is that you're prioritizing. You're not fully dedicating the beds. And that's important because our continuums are still ranked under HUD's application criteria with how many chronic beds they have dedicated. This is not dedicating it.
Okay.
We also wanted to put a couple of bullets about the joint TH and PHRRH. Boy, that's a mouthful. And again, this, it was really highly suggested that communities read through the 4-page guidance before they make a decision on if this type of project works within your community. There was discussion during the National Alliance Conference on, even if you're not CoC funded transitional housing, if you wanted to look at this project, and what this project allows you to do is both have all of the budget lines under a traditional transitional housing program, so like operating, support service, all of that stuff, but it also allows you to do that rental assistance stuff too and support services outside. So it literally is smushing the two types of services together. If you are a transitional housing program currently funded under CoC or a rapid rehousing program currently funded, and you want to change to THPHRRH, you have to reallocate your money, which was not made clear in the NOFA, but they made that clear at the National Alliance. You can't combine, so you can't apply, for example, bonus dollars for this type of project and then smush your rapid rehousing expand your rapid rehousing project, because they're two different project components. So if you currently have one of those funded programs and you're thinking that this new funding would work, let's talk on the side, because it is probably the best case scenario for you to reallocate everything as well as put in a bonus so that you're changing everything to this joint program. It's going to make it cleaner. This is the first year HUD has this, so I think there's a lot of gray that they didn't that they don't clearly realize yet. Okay, so let's talk about the technical assistance that CARES provides. We are here to help answer any regulation questions that you may have. Of course, HUD's website is great. Reading through the NOFA is great. The AAQs that will come up on HUD's website are great. But a lot of times, because we work with so many communities, the question you have, someone else may have already asked it, and we may know that information and have backup documentation to help you. So please don't hesitate to come and ask us. If we don't know, we will put in an AAQ for you or help you format your AAQ. So again, don't hesitate. If you choose to apply for a new project, and Jen, maybe in a minute you could talk about how people apply through the local RFPs.
Sure.
But if you do choose to fully apply and go through the whole eSNAPS process, which is HUD's technical submission electronic portal, we are here to help you answer any project-specific questions and how to set it up and how to set up your subpopulation information and your budgets, any budget questions you may have. And we're also here to provide any hands-on eSNAPS technical assistance that you have. So I want to throw it back to you, Jen, to talk about, so if
New
someone is
projects.
interested, how do they apply?
So each community has their own local new project RFP, which has already been released, and they're also up on the CARES website under the grant application tab. And the new project RFP is the same RFP if you're applying for a project under reallocated funds, as well as if you're applying under the bonus funds. And then we'll just rank them accordingly, according to what pot we're going to put you in, so to speak. The process works very similarly to how the renewals get ranked and reviewed. We pass them on to the review team once they're submitted. The due date for the new project RFPs to CARES is August 11th. So once they get moved on to the review team will then rank them, and then we'll put them within the tiering. Each year we put the new projects into tier 2 simply because there's nobody in those projects yet, so they're not as priority as the projects that actually have people in them.
So we didn't talk about tiering, but let me talk about it very quickly. HUD requires all local continuums to prioritize projects in 2 fiscal tiers. Tier 1 is 94% of a continuum of CARES annual renewal demand or current dollars coming in, current allocation. So there's 6%, plus if folks apply for the bonus, it's the 6% plus however much the bonus is, that has to go into what's called Tier 2. Tier 2 projects all go into a national competition and get ranked and rated, and then are renewed or approved based on their individual project score. Part of their project score is your larger CoC score. So the larger CoC score is out of 200. So the higher your continuum ranks on that application, the better chance your tier 2s as well as your bonus projects, which are in tier 2, will fare. I have to tell you, the Capital Region has been pretty successful over the past few years, even in very hard times, in getting that funding. And the reallocated funding, I know Points North has done well with reallocation, and so has Rockland, have been very successful. HUD looks very kindly on projects that are reallocated because they feel that communities who are reallocating are communities that are working together to understand the needs of the homeless. So again, I don't want to go CoC by CoC to talk about reallocation. That, if you have a question about, touch base with Jen, and she'll talk about if there's reallocated dollars coming in for your CoC, or if right now it looks like there's not. There are policies, reallocation policies, that are up on our website, I believe, Jen?
Yep, they're within the rank and review process.
So folks who are interested in understanding how each local CoC decides on what money is going back into the pot to create new programs, I suggest you go to our website, click on your CoC's name, and look for the rank and review process document, just to get more information. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
I had one question, which is, I understand the process that new projects would go to the rank and review team, they would get a score, I understand that. At what point would the new project be notified that they need to get stuff into eSnaps, or do they get stuff into eSnaps, or how does that work?
That's great. Jen, do you want to talk about that?
So we'll work with new
Michelle,
projects.
could you repeat the question? We can't hear it on our end.
Sure.
So the question was, once new project RFPs come in and they're reviewed by the review team, at what point do we give them the green light to go ahead and start putting stuff into eSnaps? And the answer is we will work with new projects one-on-one, because a lot of the times we'll have people come in for new projects that might be more than the funds available. So we will work to make sure that we are efficiently using all of the money that's on the table to make sure that it's all applied for. And then once they're ranked, we'll touch base with each new project individually and let them know how they rank. And if they decide to move forward, knowing that they might not necessarily be the #1 ranked new project, we'll work with them to start putting into eSNAPs with the understanding that they know how they fall.
So
Does that make sense?
And that would
Yes.
probably be towards the end of August by that time.
No, so
Sooner.
so the way it works is HUD requires that your collaborative applicant publicly posts early the projects who are going to renew and the new projects.
Okay.
So in order to do that, somehow the application has to be within eSNAPs. It could be a draft form, but we have to have all new and renewal applications in eSNAPs by August 18th. So this is a very quick turnaround for new project folks, because we are going to let you know immediately after August 11th,
Right.
and you really only have a couple of days, but we work with you like hand in hand to get a draft in, because literally all you need to do is get a draft, which the new RFPs that Jen and the new committees worked with, the NOFA committees, a lot of the information you put there is what goes in the new project application that's in eSNAPs. So it's really not like you're creating new information, you're copying and pasting.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and I want to thank all the folks who are on the phone, who are on the NOFA committees, because I know it was a lot of work, and we know that there are some tight deadlines for new project applications at this time, and I think all of them did a really good job in prepping the new RFP so that you're not doing a lot of work.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Any other questions? Okay, so what you see on the screen here are the important links that we strongly encourage you to go to, and specifically read through the last two if you're thinking of doing the joint project or if you're doing a permanent supportive housing project. Again, HUD's focus is on chronic homeless. So both the joint project and dedicated plus projects, you need to dedicate beds to chronic, right? So it just makes sense. If you're doing the bonus, you have to. If you're doing reallocation, you technically don't have to, but it's a really good idea to do that because it scores favorably.
And those definitions of chronic
They're detailed, yeah. It's detailed in the NOFA, it's detailed in the dedicated plus.
Will the slides be up on the website?
I believe Sam said that she was going to put the slides not only within the events calendar, but she's going to put it within each of the CoC web pages, which are on CARE's website. So this should be on shortly. Yes.
I have just put them up. They're on the project application page.
Thank you, Samantha. So everyone should be able to go in there and download these links. Go to these links and download the documents. Okay.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome. If there are any additional questions, please feel free to contact Jen, is the lead, or of course you could contact me, and we will walk everyone through any questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course.
Michelle, will you go back to the ARD page?
No problem.
Bye, Mary.
As what?
Bye.
No. Bye, Mary. No. Did we get any applications for Rockland? New project?
No project.
I mean, they're not due till August
I
11th.
understand, but I'm sure someone would have had a question.
I feel like
I
Dina said
sent
she
it out
wanted
the
to.
night.
Well, Dina, I
19.
spoke to Dina about it. Yeah, I think we got